I'm going to talk about the 7 common mistakes that most beginner sprinter make that's hindering your performance. The first common mistake that most beginner sprinter make is their starting position. We're going to start with the starting position. If you're going to do a sprint, you have to set up your start. You have to find the right angle to help you to produce the most amount of force. So the start is all about, if you are a beginner, you don't necessarily have to use a blocks. You want to work on your crouch start first, where you're in when you're on both legs leaning forward, and I'm putting a video here, right here, I'm showing you what the crouch start look like. And setting up your start as a beginner is going to be very important, because this can prevent injury, prevent the next one we're going to talk about here, which is a big one, is overstriding, right? If you don't set up your start properly, you tend to overstride, or you're taking fast steps, which is also considered overstriding, right? Because overstriding doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking long, big steps. People who take short, quick step on the stop, that's still overstriding. That's still doing more strides than you need to, or doing a longer stride than you need to, right? So the start will set you up, and the next thing you have to focus on is overstriding. And how you focus on overstriding, or what you could do to prevent overstriding, is try to take more powerful steps. Like, I'm trying to make sure that with every step I take, I'm not reaching out in front of my body with my legs, or I'm not kicking back too much at the back with my legs. I want my legs landing right under my body. That's going to be the next thing. So if you're trying to prevent overstriding, the biggest thing is going to be get your legs under your body instead of too much in front of you or too much kicking back at the back. Because when you kick back at the back, your strides tend to be shorter and are more choppy. And if you open up to the front too much, your strides tends to be big and open, and those are not conducive to sprinting fast. And so the first thing we talked about is setting up your start as a beginner. And how you set up your start is by learning how to do the crouch start, the 3-point start. I have start series for days. I'm going to try and link one in here somewhere. And if I don't, just go to the channel. If you made it this far in the video, remember to like and subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you don't like the video, hit that too. Just let me know, give me some feedback. The third thing we're going to talk about here is poor arm swings. Yes, guys, you have to incorporate your upper body as much as your lower body when you're trying to sprint fast. Sprinting is not just working the legs as fast as you can and neglecting the arms. So a key thing that I tell myself when I'm trying to sprint as fast as I can is to be as relaxed in the shoulders, but swinging from the shoulders. So I'm not focused on what my wrist is doing. I'm focused on more getting my elbow past my body with each swing and matching the cadence of my legs, if that makes sense. So I'm telling myself my arms are working my legs, so I'm trying to be big and powerful with the arm swing, drive the arms, swing. I'm not trying to think fast arms, right? So poor arm mechanics is going to be the third thing that's taken away from most sprinters' performance, or as the beginning of the video suggested, this is going to be the third thing that's a common mistake that most sprinters make. So coaches, look out for this. The fourth one we're going to talk about here is foot strike. This is a big one. This is something that's highly debated in the running world, sprinting world in general. And fun fact, guys, I am originally from Jamaica, the sprint capital of the world. And in Jamaica, we don't separate sprinters and runners. Everybody that runs, we call them runners, right? It's just that some people run fast, some people run slow, right? So the same concept applied to runners that apply to sprinters. Even when you're running for a long period of time, you don't want to be heel striking, right? You still want the whole foot to land, with more of an emphasis on a midfoot strike. And the same thing when you're sprinting. You don't want the heel you don't want to be landing on your heel. You want to emphasize the whole foot landing on the ground with an emphasis on midfoot strike. You don't want to be on the toes, because you cannot generate no power from the toes. You generate the most amount of force when your foot lands under your body with a midfoot strike. Right? So that's going to be the next thing. what is your strike like when your foot hits the ground? Are you landing too much at the front so you're on your toes, or are you heel striking, right? So I would say set up a camera, do an all-out sprint, or make sure you warm up good, or just do a sprint, look at focusing on your feet and see what your feet are doing, and try to, when you're doing sprint drills, this is a great way to work on your foot strike and body position for sprinting. I'm a big proponent of sprint mechanics. If you don't have good mechanics, you cannot sprint well, because it is a skill. You have to learn it. Number 5 here, we're looking at a lack of proper warm-up. If you're going to sprint, you want to warm up like you're going to sprint. You don't want to do a 20-minute run or a 15-minute run and then try to go do an all-out sprint. It doesn't correlate. You're training 2 different energy systems. So warm up is going to be the next crucial thing, which is number 5. I think this should be at least top 3, but I guess your start is the most important thing for a proper sprint, right? But the warm-up is something that you cannot neglect. You want to make sure that your warm-up is tailored to the distance that you're going to cover. So if you know you're going, and as a beginner, you're trying to warm up for 100, at least run some repeat 80 meters slow and progressively warm up, right? And then in a 100 meters, the first 10 to 20 meter is crucial. So you also want to make sure you're doing some of those at some point in your warm up. If you made it this far in the video, if you want a full length warm up of how to warm up for the 100 meters, 200 and 400, because those warm ups are going to be similar, leave a like, leave a comment. That will let me know that you're watching the video, and that will let me know that I could go ahead and put that for you. Alright, if you just want a general warm up for the gym or for a sprint workout, I post multiple warm ups here. Next thing we want to look at here is we want to look at recovery, because sprinting is all about how, so we want to look at recovery, because sprinting, you cannot do an all-out sprint and rest 2 minutes and then think you're gonna give the same max effort, right? It's just like weightlifting when you're in the gym and you're trying to do a max rep, like you want to do 1 rep. You're not gonna do a 1 rep max and then 30 seconds you go right back trying to do another 1 rep max. You're gonna need time in between, because it's taxing on your body. So same thing applies with sprinting. Myself, I like to give my athletes, if we're at the track and we're working on some max speed, we're resting more than 8 minutes, 10 minutes, based on how in shape my athlete is. Like for myself, when I'm in tip-top shape, and say for example I'm running repeat 150s, and I come and I'm trying to hit 15 seconds for my 150s, my recovery could be as long as 12 minutes or as short as 6 minutes, right? I don't go below that. And then again, this is somebody who's talking as an elite, and there's so many variables here, right? Because if the workout is something where you're running a longer distance, say for example you run a 300 and then you're trying to get like a 100 afterwards, or a 120 afterwards, or a 150 afterwards, you want to make sure you take even a longer recovery, because the distance is longer, right? So the stress is on, if you're trying to sprint all out, make sure you're taking just as much time for recovery. You want to rest so you could sprint all out. And then the last thing we want to talk about here is, this is where I come in, guys. As a beginner, if you're trying to develop sprint speed and you want to sprint faster, you have to strength train. And when I say strength train, I don't mean just doing some squats. Squats are good, don't get me wrong, but you have to strength train with sprinting in mind. So you make sure your exercises are predominantly single leg. We're not trying to go heavy at a point, right? I could go crazy with strength training for sprinters in general, but the general guideline is you want to make sure that you're following some type of protocol as a sprinter, where you're strength training 1 to 2 times per week. That's the sweet spot. And you also want to make sure that your strength training is specific. Every sprinter is a little bit different, but the general guideline is you want to make sure you're doing some single leg stuff. You want to make sure you're doing some lunges. You want to make sure you're doing some rotational stuff. It's so many things, but strength training in general is going to benefit you as a sprinter. And strength training doesn't necessarily have to happen in the gym. We could do strength training at the track for sprinting with body weight exercises. Plyometrics is a form of strength training for sprinting, and that's a whole different topic, guys. So If you made it this far in the video, remember to like, remember to subscribe, and two-time Olympian here, Rockstar Kato, coming to you guys with more informative videos. Share the video with somebody who's going to find this information valuable. Until the next time, we are out.